Year 9, Year 10, Year 11, welcome to some quick revision on Mother Any Distance in preparation for your English Literature exam. Excuse the technical issues I've been having, this is the best I can do. It is by no means everything that you need for the poem, it is just some thoughts in terms of close language analysis and a little bit on structure. Mother Any Distance then, if you look at the title, you can see that the caesura there after the word mother separates the mother from the son, and this essentially foreshadows the entire poem. So that is actually an important piece of punctuation, and I suppose it links to the abstract noun distance. The word mother is formal. I don't go around saying mother, I say mum. I don't know that many people use that word, so it's more formal, and perhaps there's a seriousness there. The seriousness is that the son wants to be independent, but the mother, as we know when the poem progresses, is struggling to let him go. And alternatively, there's connotations beyond that of mankind, because mother suggests someone/something maternal, protective and caring. So, mother in the animal kingdom, a mother in the natural world has those connotations. So by beginning the poem like that, we do have the subtle notion of someone or something that is designed to protect. It's based on the sonnet form, this poem, but it's got an extra line. So you want to think about, well, why has it got an extra line? Is it the notion of something beyond? Is it beyond the limits of the mother, in the sense that she has to let him go, and that's beyond her limits, because her limits are to protect and to care, as we just discussed. Is it beyond the idea of childhood, because he has grown up now? Is the extra line the unknown, which links to the end of the poem, fall or fly, that there's no certainty as to what's going to happen to the son? And the poem is part of Armitage's anthology book of matches. Now, the idea there is that you will read the poem in the time it takes to light a match and for it to burn out. So it's something very brief and something quick. So in his poems and in his anthologies there, they're all kind of brief situations. So are we getting the notion that this moment should be quite brief, that he leaves, but isn't? It is prolonged because arguably the mother is struggling, isn't she? And in that instance, she suffers because she has to let him go. And I remember when I left home, it's an emotional moment, especially for the parent, because they obviously want to look after us and their children won't be able to do so. The rhyme scheme changes as the poem goes on, because we begin with half rhyme, span hands, which moves then to a couplet of doors and floors. Now I think this reiterates the closeness of the relationship at the beginning of the poem, that they're very, very close before he moves away with the tape measure. The rhyme then changes to half rhyme again, where we get the reeling, leaving, etc, etc. But then it completely disappears, probably around the third stanza, I think, if my memory serves me right. Perhaps that's the breaking point of the sun. Perhaps as well it is the greatest distance between the two of them, when they are physically and literally the furthest apart in the house with the tape measure. But I suppose metaphorically and symbolically, emotionally, they are really distant. Spiritually, they are really distant. So think about the rhyme scheme breaking down and the relationship starting to sever, if you like. And we finish with the couplet, Skyfly. And again, that, I suppose what that then does is serves to heighten and reiterate that it is undeniable. The bond between mother and child, mother and son, is unbreakable, even when distance is applied to it. Greater than a single span. Then if we look at single span, it's a very small distance, suggesting that the poet needs his mother, but vice versa as well, that the mother in her own emotional distress relies on her child. But I think there's a subtle juxtaposition there between single span and greater and distance from the title. There's the internal conflict of the speaker who's trying to grow up and move out, but is still close and tied to the mother. And we get that notion of being tied to him through the extended metaphor of like an umbilical cord and the literal tape. Requires a second pair of hands. Well, requires literally is need for a particular purpose or to make necessary. So The second pair of hands being the mother here is necessary. Therefore, there is a link to reliance here, and if the fundamental idea is that children rely on mothers, children rely on parents, and that we need them for a particular purpose. More than one purpose. We need them to look after us. We need them to teach us. We need them to show us how to become adults. So this notion of a second pair of hands, while it seems like a flippant remark, is factual, and it's a necessity. He needs his mother, yes, in this instance to help him move house, but actually for everything else that the mother has done. Acres of the walls, the prairies of the floors. Look again at your caesura there. When we're talking about acres and prairies, which is arguably a lexical field associated with not only the natural world but large spaces, then we include the caesura. Then again, we've got this notion of space, of distance, the space between the two. The space obviously goes beyond the walls of the house. I've put here, is the speaker communicating a desire for more distance? Or is this the distance he'll be left with when he leaves? But again, walls and prairies is the natural world. Therefore, it's natural for children to leave home. And it's natural that the parent has to accept it, I suppose. But think about the fact that it's acres and prairies. So there is going to be a significant distance between them physically, which then it appears to transform into emotions for the mother, because she feels like a physical distance will become an emotional distance. Base. The idea of base is metaphorical. Interesting, one of the literal meanings of this word is the fundamental part of something. The mother is the base here. So obviously here the mother is fundamental. She supports him, she upholds him, etc., etc. And base camp, if you like, if you're thinking about journeys, is where they run missions, where they make sure that everything's okay. Base, I think, juxtaposes spool, which sounds out of control and chaotic. Literal link to the unspooling of the tape measure, but it also seems like there's an implication that without the mother, without the base there, the son could lose his way, and that is supported by unreeling. So we have got the idea that he does need her, and this notion that without her, anything could potentially happen. Leaving, unreeling, end the line, which also uses enjambment. So those words end the line, which leads to into the next line. So the growing distance is emphasised by the enjambment. It could also be the passing of time. It could be him growing up. But your enjambment is also the unreeling of the tape as he wanders through the house. It is, I suppose, the severing of the umbilical cord at birth. It is any time there is a growing distance between mother and child. And I suppose what the enjambment does there is it really solidifies this idea that, as I said earlier, a child has to be let go. We know that the tape is extended metaphor, obviously, in this poem for the umbilical cord, but also when we get the word years, it's the journey of the son, it's the journey of the child that is being kind of noted here. But we know that they're going to still be connected, the mother and the son, because we get the single words anchor and kite. The idea that she holds and clings to the tape measure, much like a parent and a child, we get that as well when we get pinch. Anchor and kite, I'm sure there's obviously a million things to say. An anchor secures a boat, it provides it with security and support and keeps it safe. So we can link that to base. Symbolically, sailors like the connection this symbol has to stability and strength. That also goes back to the Christians as well, if you look at your religious symbolism. Putting down an anchor represents the safe end of a long journey. So here now we have the notion that the anchor there is that he will safely move out. So we have a little bit of security there in that. But also, she, I suppose, in this instance becomes the anchor, doesn't she? She's the base camp and she's the anchor. That keeps everything safe, secure. And then when we link that to Kite, he is linked to freedom and independence, isn't he? While the mother keeps a hold of him. So again, similar to the anchor, she is the person that stops him from going out of control, stops him from completely leaving. Alternatively, is there a notion that he wants to be free of her? So and there's obvious links to childhood innocence. So him being the kite, is he desperate to get away from her? And obviously she's holding on, which seems like a natural thing for a mother to do. So we've had base, anchor and kite, which are all images of security, of safety, of holding onto. Spacewalk, this image has notions that without gravity, the sun's aimless. Arguably, then the gravity would be family here that keeps him firmly attached to the ground, if you like. So we've got that metaphorical idea. And it's a similar image to the anchor, is the mother the ship in which the astronauts are attached. So there's two suggestions there, you know, that as he walks further away from her, it's as if the gravity's gone, the support system's gone, he's not being kept grounded, therefore he's a little bit aimless, which could link to endless sky, I suppose. When we come to the end, we get endless sky, fall or fly, and this section follows ellipsis. So again, Shazira heightens the conclusion of the poem, which gives us options, and it's indecisive, and it's got alliteration in the fall or the fly, and we get the rhyming couplet as well of sky and fly. The adjective endless implies that the sun has endless opportunities. We don't know what awaits him. We don't know if he'll be successful, although fly to end the poem suggests he will. Fall or fly, then we know it's time for him to make his own decisions without the mother. Whether he will fall or fly will be through his own choices. I suppose the rhyming couplet of sky and fly might suggest something positive, and the fact that we end with the rhyming couplet signifies their relationship. I did say that this was going to be quite quick and just things to point out here and to pick out. The poem's pretty much straightforward. Have a look back through for your Shazira enjambment, your rhyme scheme, your extra line, to comment on those things. And massive good luck in your English literature exam.